So last night I went over about 9:30 and I sat with Balaram Baba while I guess he had a group of 10 or so Brahmins there chanting mantras for Lord Shiva, and there was like a pot on top of Shiva, drip, 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 drip. And he said that puja would go on all night tonight, and it would go on all day today. I wanted to see Lord Shiva, but I knew that if I went to Gopeshwar Mahadev, it would be very chaotic. In the old days, when we were young and we were more bold, we used to go down there. Of course, in the young days, there weren't as many people who were coming to Vrindavan. And still people would come and they would be carrying some colorful thing, sort of like a tent, and they would be carrying jars of Ganga Jal that they had collected at the Ganga and walked all the way to Vrindavan, sort of like in some laboratory bottles or something like that. And they would come into the temple and they would bathe Gopeshwar Mahadev, and then they would throw the glass bottles on the ground. So it was very dangerous, So I decided, instead of going down to Gopeshwar, just to go to Balaram Baba's place last night. And it was very, very wonderful. So today is Mahashivratri. And I wanted to speak something about Shivratri. So I started doing a little bit of research. And primarily when we do research these days, everybody, the first thing you do is you go to Google to see what comes up. And without getting into reading different Puranas and so on, the basic explanation of Shivratri is two things. One is a celebration of when Lord Shiva married Parvati, and second is on the day that he performs the Tandava Nritya, his famous dance of devastation. And the idea behind it was given that Lord Shiva is one who is a liberator, or Lord Shiva is one who can bestow godly grace on people. So on Shivratri night, the mantras and the all-night prayers for Lord Shiva begin. And then it comes into the light of the morning, which is a symbolism of going from darkness into the light. And, we know how many times we have read in Srila Prabhupada's books that verse, now it is time to go out of darkness and come into life. That's the business of our human form of life. So Shiva is seen as a great giver of liberation. And he's known as Mahadev, and Mahadev indicates that he is the greatest of all of the devtas. And then different aspects. One aspect is that we know that Shiva lives at Kailash. And I was trying to find some information about that. And I was given reference that the Shiva that lives in Kailash is Sadashiva. And Sadashiva is also Shiva who has a planet in Goloka Vrindavan. Not in Goloka Vrindavan, but he has a planet in Vaikuntha. And that's described in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Srila Sanatana Goswami. There he explains that it's that passage where Gopkumar is meeting Shiva in the Brahman. And Gopkumar has gone to the Brahman because he heard of Brahman when he was in Brahmaloka. He heard of the abode of liberation. And so then he was thinking, okay, let me go there. And he thought that this place was the final destination. And he reached that place, and then he met Lord Shiva coming down from someplace else. And it was all a telepathic type of conversation because Lord Shiva knows the mind of everyone. You know, Gopkumar, the boy, was saying, who is this? Or thinking, who is this very opulent and wonderful personality? And Shiva was hearing him thinking, oh, he wants to know who I am. And then Shiva was instructing Nandishwar, inform this boy who I am. So an indication that Gopkumar was all the way in his development to the Brahman effulgence, and still he didn't have full spiritual or transcendental knowledge, which is, it's a very interesting thing, you know, that he was advanced so much based on Shraddha and the instruction of his spiritual master, but still, you know, having been a Brahma, going past Brahma to the Brahman effulgence, you know, he still didn't know who Shiva was. And so, you know, Nandishwar began to speak, you know, the glories of Lord Shiva. And he said he lives in a planet in Vaikuntha. And in that planet in Vaikuntha, the residents who reside there, there's only one thing they do, and they have Harinam Sankirtan through eternity. Like over here, we think of, you know, 6-hour kirtans, we think of 12-hour kirtans, we think of 24-hour kirtans. But in Lord Shiva's planet, in Vaikuntha, it's eternally. Just all the people are chanting and dancing and singing the name of Govinda constantly. So, you know, Lord Shiva at that point, he began to speak to the boy. The boy wanted to have mercy from Lord Shiva. And Shiva told him, he said, as a grihasta, if you follow perfectly all the rules of Varnashram Dharma for 100 lifetimes, then you will become qualified to be a Brahma. And then if you follow all of Brahma's duties perfectly for another 100 lifetimes, you become a Shiva. He said, but even I and my wife, Parvati, you know, we live there, but we can't stay there all the time. And so then he was explaining that he was on his way to Kailash in this world, where he was going to meet his friend Kuvera. So we know of Shiva as living at Kailash. We hear of Shiva in Vaikuntha. We also hear that when it's time for the living beings to be impregnated into the material nature, all of the living beings that are stored within the belly of Vishnu, they come to Lord Shiva in a form which is known as Shambhu. And Srila Prabhupada has explained to us that Shambhu means the glancing potency of the Lord. So we read that the Lord looks at the material energy, and by his looking potency, the living beings are impregnated into the material nature. So it's the Lord, but it's a unique form of the Lord who touches the material nature by his glance. So we have Ishwar Tattva, and like Krishna, and so many different expansions and avatars, they're Vishnu Tattva. And these Vishnu Tattva expansions, and Krishna himself, they never touch the material nature. They consider it's apara prakriti. They don't want to be involved in any way. For example, when Krishna came down 5,000 years ago, what did he do? He brought his entire Dham with him also to this place. And that's why we say that this Vrindavan is the exact replica or the same as Golok Vrindavan in the spiritual world. Krishna had to have some relationships with people, but he didn't want to have relationships with just regular material people. So what did he do? He brought down his family, he brought down his friends, he brought down the gopis, and he brought down the gopas. So he would not be involved in the material nature. He performed his activities of pritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam, and that he killed demons at different times of his life as a child in Vrindavan and living outside of Vrindavan also, but never involved in the material nature. So that glancing potency of the Lord, that Shambhu, Ishvara Tattva, that touches the material energy. And then we have Shiva of the trilogy of gods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. He's a guna avatar of the Lord. And Brahmaji, he's responsible for the creation. Vishnu, he is responsible for the maintenance of the universe. And Shiva, he's responsible for the dissolution or the destruction of the universe as a guna avatar. Now, we understand that the avatar and the avatari are of the same potency. And Shiva, he's actually an aspect of the Supreme Lord. So, yeah, three different aspects of Lord Shiva. And generally we think of, generally we think of Shiva in these ways. But there's another aspect of Lord Shiva that we should always be mindful of. And that aspect of Lord Shiva is that he is the greatest of Vaishnavas. That's spoken in a verse near the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I can read that verse now. It says, just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Lord Achyuta, the supreme among all deities, and Lord Shambhu Shiva, the greatest of Vaishnavas, so Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Puranas. So that's a very big point for all of us practicing devotees of Lord Krishna, is that we see Lord Shiva is the greatest of all Vaishnavas, and we, at least we should seriously aspire to become Vaishnavas. And that should be our big aspiration and our hope, that we can develop the qualities of a Vaishnava and practice Vaishnavism. So if a person is a Vaishnava, and we're hearing and we're seeing through the eyes of Shastra, if a person is a Vaishnava and you want to become a Vaishnava, what do? You go to that person and you beg him, please give me mercy. Please give me mercy that I can become a devotee of the Lord, to follow in your footsteps. And I was reading one verse. Well, we'll hold on a few seconds. So we see through the eyes of the Shastra, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the greatest of Puranas and is the natural commentary on the Vedanta, it says that the greatest of Vaishnavas is Lord Shiva. So we should approach Shiva in that way. Now, all of you, or many of you, you're from Indian background, and you know that people approach Shiva for different things. Some people approach Shiva because they would like to have a good wife. Some people approach Lord Shiva because they would like some material opulence. Some people approach Lord Shiva because they would like liberation. And it's an interesting thing that that many people, people here in India, and you can verify as well, they approach Krishna as well because they want material things. I've seen so many times here at Krishna Balaram Mandir, especially in the old days, that on festivals like Amavasya or Purnima or Ekadashis, you would get so many cartloads, tractor pulling carts on the back with Brajabasi people coming to Vrindavan to come to the temple and pray. And you would see them, you would see the old grannies praying, you would see the young girls praying, you would see husbands praying. And after praying, they reach inside of their cloth and they pull out, a 5 paisa coin and they throw it at the deities. And to think that they're all asking for prema bhakti is not realistic. Some people are asking for a new tractor. Some people are asking for, the son to pass his examination. Some people were asking, to get the children married. But Srila Prabhupada said we should never criticize those people because they have the intelligence to understand that if they want anything, they should go to Krishna. One time I was listening to Srila Prabhupada give a class, and I think it was on Lord Baraha's appearance day. And Prabhupada, it was one of those classes where he began speaking with thunder. I mean, he was, in a very, very strong mood. And he was speaking about, the pastime and this and demons and so forth and so on. And he was basically, bringing his point down to a fine point, that if a devotee or if people want anything, ask Krishna. And he would cite this verse, akama savakama va mokshakama udariti brena bhakti yogena jajeta purusham param. That whether you're akama, you have no desires, sarvakama, you have every desire, mokshakama, you desire liberation, whatever you want, just engage in devotional service and Krishna will give you what you want. So, so many people approach Krishna in that way also, in the way that people approach Lord Shiva. But Prabhupada, he went a step further and he said, he was speaking about this very strongly. And then Prabhupada said, but the gopis of Vrindavan, they never ask for anything other than to have service. And at that point, after this big fiery lecture that Srila Prabhupada was giving, Srila Prabhupada sort of just stopped talking and he became overwhelmed thinking about the spotless and pure devotion of the ladies of Vrindavan. And then he concluded by saying, chant Hare Krishna. And we learn that from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. Mahaprabhu says, nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam bhajagadish kamai mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatat bhakti rahaitvita. I only want your bhakti. Please give that to me only. I don't want wealth. I don't want followers. I don't want a beautiful wife. I don't want to hear the flowery words of praise of this world. And he says, Bhava janmani janmanishwari. That means birth after birth. And that birth after birth, you look at it from the other side and it says, I don't want liberation either. I don't want anything other than your service. Please just give me your service. So when we see deities, and you know, I worship Shivalingams on my altar. I have one Shivalingam that is Gopeshwar Mahadev, and I have one Shivalingam that is Mahakaleshwar. And daily I pray to them when I'm giving them bath and I'm worshiping, you know, please allow me to become a Vaishnava. Please give me bhakti. Please never let any desire enter my heart or enter my life, and the desire just to have the pure devotional service of Radha and Krishna. And there's an interesting idea in that regard is when Srila Prabhupada, he says that the devotees, they will never disrespect any Vaishnava, and the devotees will never disrespect any Devta. But they will always see them in relationship to Krishna, and they will always pray to that person to ask for Krishna's mercy. So we pray to Lord Shiva, please allow me to be a Vaishnava and to become Krishna's servant. And the gopis of Vrindavan, they prayed to goddess Katyayani, but they saw her as Yogamaya. They didn't see her just as Devi, but they saw her as Yogamaya. And perhaps you all know that verse, Katyayani Mahamayi Mahayogini Yadishwari Nandagopa Sutam Devi Pateme Gurute Namaha. Maybe I forget the last word. But oh, goddess Katyayani, Mahamayi, the great energy, Mahayogini Adishwari, the greatest yogini, please give us a blessing. And that blessing is, please allow, you know, the son of Nanda Maharaj to become our husband. So the devotees, they see in that way and they'll approach in that way. But there's another aspect of Lord Shiva that should be touched on. And that aspect is Lord Shiva is ever present in Vrindavan Dham. And generally when we think of Lord Shiva, we think of Kashi Vishwanath, or we think of Mahakaleshwar and Ujjain, and we may think of some of the other Jyotirlingams of India. But Shiva, he resides here in Vrindavan. And he lives here, and it could be said, well, how did Shiva, who has such a particular mood, how is it that he came to Vrindavan? And being a devotee of the Lord, and always chanting the glories of Govinda, and always hearing about Krishna, Lord Shiva, he also heard about Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. And Lord Shiva, he heard about the gopis of Vrindavan, and he heard of the divine rasa dance of Lord Krishna and the gopis. So Shiva started thinking, I have to go to Vrindavan. I have to become a gopi. You know, I want to see these pastimes, these divine pastimes of selfless love that are being conducted by Radha and Krishna. So Shiva was in Kailash, and he was preparing to leave to come to Braja. And at Lake Mansarovar, he met Yogamaya, who in a personified form in Braja is Purnamasi Devi. And so she greeted Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva greeted her. And she said, where are you going, Mahadev? And he replied, I'm going to Vrindavan because in Vrindavan, I wish to become a gopi and to participate in the Rasa Leela. And Purnamasi sort of straight up told Lord Shiva, well, you can't enter the rasa dance in a male body. It's not possible, because that rasa dance is, conducted between the Adi Purush, who is Krishna, and all of his gopika. There's only one man over there. And he said, but no, I must go, I must go, I must go. So Purnamasi said, all right, I will make an arrangement for you. And what she did is she took Shiva in his form of ascetic yogi, and she bathed Shiva in Lake Mansarovar. And when she dipped him in the waters of Mansarovar, when she pulled him out, he was a beautiful gopi, absolutely stunningly beautiful gopi. And at that point, he said, okay, I'm going. And he left for Braja. Now, our acharyas explain that when we come to the spiritual platform of life, and our swarup becomes obvious to us, we will also have revelation of different specific facts about our nature. And it's like the example which I've given many times, and perhaps some of you all have caught, that if people approach us now and they say, who are you? We respond by saying, I am the servant of Krishna. But then if they say, well, which servant are you? Where do you live? What are your parents' name? What is the service that you perform? What does your complexion look like? What is your dress like? Who are your family members? Then we can't say anything, because we're practicing and we're waiting to come to that awakened spiritual platform. So these different aspects are known by everyone, but Shiva became a gopi, and he just took off to Vrindavan, and he arrived at the scene of the Rasa Leela. And when he arrived there, he was greeted by so many accommodating young gopis. These gopis are, they're the most cultured, they're the most loving individuals. They're always happy to see new people. And so they found this new girl, and they basically accepted her, and they brought her into their circle. And then they started saying things like, oh dear, we have not met you before. What village are you from? And Shiva was like, oh my God, my dear, we've not met you before. Who are your parents? Shiva couldn't say anything. Oh, my sweet, beautiful girl, we're meeting you for the first time. What service do you perform? Shiva couldn't say anything. And because all the young ladies of Vrindavan, they're so protective of Radha and Krishna when they're together for their, divine dance of love, they all started to gang up on this gopi. And they started to pull her long braided hair. They started pinching her. Some were saying, this is an imposter. Some of them were thinking, it's a demon that's been sent by Kamsa to do something to Radha and Krishna. And they started picking up sticks, and they were getting ready to beat Lord Shiva in the form of a gopi. And at that time, Purnamasi appeared. And she said, "My dear girls of Braja, do not harm this new person, because this new person is none other than Mahadev himself." And then Purnamasi transformed Shiva back into his Shiv body. And all the girls, when they heard that, they were overwhelmed, and they became very respectful, and they were bowing down to Lord Shiva because they knew the glories of Lord Shiva. And Purnamasi said, "Now we'll have to go." And Shiva said, "No, I've come so close. I want to be here." And she was saying, no, you can't enter the rasa yourself. And he said, no, I have to be here. And then Purnamasi, because she has, supreme intelligence, and she wished to resolve everything very nicely, she said, "Okay, you cannot enter the rasa pastimes, but you can stand at a distance and you can watch the rasa pastimes, and you can become the official protector of Vrindavan Dham." So, we sing that song, Jai Jai Gopishwar Vrindavan Maj. Gopishwar Mahadev, he's the protector of the Ras Bhumi. Just like over here in Vrindavan, I have some of my Russian lady disciples. And for the past few days, I've been training them how I do my puja. So if sometime I and Shiv go off, then we'll have competent people here to take care of the deities. And when I was telling them about my Shiva lingams, on my altar, I keep one Shiva on either side of Radha and Krishna. And I was explaining to them, these Shiva lingams are here. They're the protectors of the Rasa Bhumi, and they're protecting Radha and Krishna and all of their associates. So when Shiva heard that, he said, "Yes, I will accept." And so Shiva, he's the protector of the Rasa Bhumi. And also Shiva is in 4 other places in Vrindavan. And naturally, one place is what we just described, is Gopishwar Mahadev. Like, I can't see hands because I can only see 2 people on the screen, but probably some of you who have visited Vrindavan, you have gone down to see Gopishwar Mahadev. And he's a very interesting deity. He's ancient Shivalingam. And in the morning, that Shivalingam appears as Lord Shiva. And in the night, when you go there for the evening darshan, he's dressed as a gopi. I don't know if any of you all, I can't see, but next time you come to Vrindavan, we'll go down and see Gopishwar Mahadev. Because in the morning, he's got ashes, and he's got snakes, and he's got the Ganga coming on his head, and he has all the traditional Shiva items, and he has, the bael leaves on his head, and everybody is coming constantly, and they're doing abhishek. But when you go in the evening time, dressed in a sari, big bindi, beautiful big red lips, he's a gopi in the evening. So that's here in central Vrindavan. And another place Lord Shiva is present is in Kameshwar, or in Kamyavan. And in Kamyavan, he's known as Kameshwar Mahadev. And So these Shivas, they protect different extremities of Vrindavan, to keep auspiciousness outside, inauspiciousness outside. So Kameshwar is in Kamivan, which is way, way west over in Rajasthan state. And he's known as Kameshwar because he's so merciful in his aspect of Lord Shiva that he will, if you go there and pray, any desire that you have, he will mercifully fulfill. He will fulfill your kama. And since he is a devotee, who is a Vaishnava, who has prema, naturally, if we were to go there to see him, our kama or our desire is to develop prema as well. It's stated that when Vrishabhanu Maharaj and Kirtida Sundari, before they had children, they would go to Kameshwar. And at Kameshwar, they would pray that we wish to have children, but we only wish to have glorious children. We wish to have the most glorious children in the world. And they perform some tapasya and they worship Kameshwar Mahadev. And as a result, the 3 children that they had were Srimati Radharani and her brother Sridham and Radharani's younger sister Ananga Manjari. So even the Brajabasis, they worshipped Lord Shiva. And then there's Nandishwar Mahadev. And at Nandagaon, when probably all of you have gone to Nandagaon. I personally have, I've not been inside the Nandagaon temple for many years because the local Brahmins over there, they always created too much tension when I would go. But that hill itself is a manifestation of Lord Shiva. It's known as Nandishwar Mahadev. And it's stated in Shastra that many ages before Krishna appeared in this world, Lord Shiva performed a very severe tapasya that he would, because he wanted to be in Vrindavan when Krishna was going to appear in Vrindavan, because he wanted to see Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. So Lord Shiva engaged in severe tapasya, and after some time of performing this tapasya, Krishna, in his original form, he came before Lord Shiva and he folded his hands and he said, Mahadev, what would you like? Ask for anything that you would like. And Lord Shiva, he looked up and he said, I know that in the future you will appear in Brajabhumi. And thus, before you appear in Brajabhumi, let me appear as a mountain in Brajabhumi. And Krishna was a little surprised. And he said, why do you want to be a mountain in Vrindavan? And Shiva replied, I wish to be a mountain in Vrindavan so that your father will build his palace upon me. And every day when you go to the pasturing grounds to play with the cows, your feet will be covered with dust. And when you meet the gopika, your feet will also be covered with the dust of the feet of the gopis. And then you will come back to your palace in the evening time, and you will walk all over the hill and you will put the dust of your lotus feet and the dust of the gopika upon me. This is what I want. And when Lord Krishna heard that, he said, Tatastu, it's yours. And so that's another form, that's another Shiva Lingam in Vrindavan is Nandeshwar Mahadev. And then Lord Shiva is present as Chakleshwar Mahadev. And Chakleshwar is that Manasi Ganga. And I guess all of you can sort of like, turn on your transcendental television in your mind, and you can see Manasi Ganga with that temple of Mukara Vrinda, the face of Govardhan Hill. And on one side, we go back to the Haridev temple, and on the other side of Manasi Ganga, there's a place which is called Gopi Ghat. And at Gopi Ghat, there's Chakleshwar Mahadev. And that was one of the bhajan places of Srila Sanatana Goswami. He would go there and he would stay and he would sit and he would write literatures. And he would be writing literatures just next to the temple of Chakleshwar. And it's been explained that Sanatan loved that place to be on the side of Manasi Ganga, but he became afflicted with what everybody becomes afflicted with when they live by bodies of water, and that's mosquitoes. And he said, I can't stay here. There's too many mosquitoes. And it was before the days of Odomos and good night. So he said, I love this place, but I just can't stay. And then Chakleshwar Mahadev, he took the form of an elderly and respected Brahmin. And he came to Sanatan and he spoke to him. And he said, Babaji Maharaj, we love you so much. And your association is so purifying. Please never take your lotus feet from this place. And Sanatan said, but the mosquitoes are impossible. And Chakleshwar said, please, you don't worry. I will take care of the mosquitoes. And it's said that since that time, there have been no mosquitoes at that place at Manasi Ganga. So that's Chakleshwar. And then there's another Lord Shiva in Vrindavan that we just visited recently. Ravi
Hare Krishna. Are you able to hear Guru Maharaj?
We cannot hear Prabhu, I think he's got disconnected.
Okay. I think let me write to him. I think there is some issue with Guru Maharaj's internet. The WhatsApp message could not be reached to him.
Right.
Yeah, he has sent a message. He is checking the internet.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, our modem went off and Shiv had to turn it back on. Okay, give me 1 sec. So recently, Ravi and Lavina and family came to Vrindavan. And on the Monday morning, we went to first to Javat. And we got there a little bit early because we wanted to accomplish seeing things because Ravi had to get back and leave Vrindavan by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we saw Javat, and then we all walked across to Terkadamba, and we got to Terkadamba, and Rishikesh Maharaj was sitting there with some Brajabasi men, and they were singing holy songs because holy season is going on in Vrindavan. And that was very sweet and pleasant. But, you know, since we couldn't sit down because they were singing, then I just showed, you know, our guests what the place was. And then we decided to walk over to Asheshwar Mahadev. And I think that probably many of you have been to Asheshwar with me also. And he's another deity of Lord Shiva who lives in Vrindavan. And Asha, it means hope. So Asheshwar is Shiva who will fulfill any hope which you have. And again, you know, that's our responsibility. What type of hope will we have? Will we have material hope, or will we have spiritual hope? Hopefully by everybody's education in Krishna consciousness and through hearing from spiritual masters and sadhus and hearing from Srila Prabhupada, people will understand that, you know, aspiring for material achievements is hope against hope, meaning the hope will never become fulfilled or satisfied. So we have spiritual aspirations. So it was Monday, we went there to pray to Asheshwar to fulfill our spiritual hopes of one day attaining blessed prema bhakti. And Asheshwar is there due to a particular reason. And when Vrishabhanu Maharaj had shifted over to this side from Gokul, and he'd finally settled at Nandagaon, then at one time, Lord Shiva came, and he wanted to have darshan of the child. And Lord Shiva proceeded directly to like the nursery room, and he knocked on the door. And when the door opened, Jasoda was standing there, and Jasoda saw this very fierce looking yogi outside of her room. Because Shiva, he has this appearance of a great ascetic, you know, body covered with ashes and scorpions in his hair and cobras and long, you know, mats and covered with skin. And Jasoda just looked up and she said, "No way." And she just shut her door immediately, slammed the door. She thought that maybe it was one of Kamsa's people who had come and wanted to hurt the baby. And when she shut the door like that, the child immediately started crying and wouldn't stop crying. And Lord Shiva, he went down from Nandagaon, and he was just sat in a forest, and he started performing tapasya for the benefit to have the darshan of Krishna. So when the child would not stop, crying, then Jasoda started consulting the other elderly ladies of Vrindavan, saying, what is this? Do you think that somebody has put evil eye on him? Do you think that, what could it be? And the elderly ladies, they said, have you committed any aparads recently? Have you offended anyone? Have you been blunt with anyone? Have you spoken badly to anyone? And Jasoda said, well, there was this sadhu or yogi or something that came to my door, and I just slammed the door in his face. And then he went away. And then the child started crying. And they said, this is somebody that you have offended. We have to search that person out. So they started a whole team of Brajabasis. They started searching all around Nandagaon to see if they could find that yogi sadhu. And finally they came upon Lord Shiva meditating in the forest. And at that time, Jasoda saw him, and Jasoda began to, beg the sadhu for forgiveness. And Lord Shiva looked up and he said, no, mother, there is no offense which has been done. And she said, and when the baby saw Lord Shiva, immediately stopped crying. So Jasoda knew that was a confirmation. And Jasoda said, is there anything that I can give you? And so Shiva said, yes, there's one thing that you can give me. And she said, what is that? And he said, whenever you bathe this baby, then the water that you bathe the baby with, I wish to have that to drink. And when she said that, Jasoda said, yes. He said, that's all you want? He said, that's all I want. And then Asheshwar, he also said, and I will give you a special blessing, that if any rakshasas or demons try to attack your child here in Braja, I will always protect them and turn them into stone. And so Jasoda was very thankful, and she went back to Nandagaon. So then it's described that Krishna was a child, and he was a naughty child, and we've all read that he was a very naughty child. And he was constantly doing mischief. And he was constantly getting on Jasoda's nerves. And so after he had been going through a very bad phase of just naughtiness, one day Jasoda just grabbed him. And Jasoda said, you're such a bad boy. Said, if you don't stop doing your nonsense, I'm going to call the howls, and the howls will take care of you. And Krishna said, mother, what is a howl? And so then she started saying, it's a very frightening creature. It's like he has like red hair and long teeth and horns and long nails, and he eats little children who are bad. And Krishna said, oh, mother, please don't call the howls. And it's funny, because I never had children, but when we were there, I asked, Lavina and the other ladies, I said, do you guys do this to your children also? And they said, oh yeah, it's like standard stuff that parents do. And so then Krishna straightened up for a day or so, and then he started doing mischief again, and mother grabbed him. And she said, naughty boy, I told you, if you don't behave yourself, I'm going to call the howls. And Krishna said, Mommy, could you describe those howls again? And she would say, yes, they're so ferocious. They breathe fire. They devour naughty children. They rip them apart. And Krishna said, Mother, please don't call the howls. So then he behaved himself a little bit for a bit more. And then he started doing it again, misbehavior. And so Jasoda grabbed him and she said, son, I'm going to call the howls. And Krishna looked up and he told Jasoda, he said, Mother, you remember that time that I climbed up inside of that tree next to the Jamuna when the big snake was in the Jamuna and the poison of the snake was killing everyone? She said, yes. Krishna said, well, when I jumped off the branch of that tree, I swam all the way down to Patala Loka. And on my way down and on my way back up, I didn't see any creature that looked like a howl. So what is this howl story, Mother? And Jasoda became shy, like she had been caught out. And she told Krishna, she said, son, I was just making the story in order to scare you so that you would behave. And Krishna looked up and he said, no. He said, my mother Jasoda loves me so much. My mother Jasoda could never make a story and lie to me. And she was saying, no, son, really, it was just a story that I was making up. And Krishna said, no. My mother is so full of love. She will never lie to me. And she said, son, it was just and before she could say joke, they heard this loud roaring behind them. And they turned around and there were 5 howls that Krishna had manifest from his internal potency. And Krishna looked over and he said, you see, Mother, I told you, your love is so strong for me. You would never lie to me. Here are the howls. And then at that time, Ashishra Mahadev appeared and he turned the howls into stone. So they used to be at Hal Bilal, somewhere around the base of Nandagaon. And about 1,000 years ago, Deen Bandhu Baba, he took me there and he showed me Hal Bilal. And I saw the howls. And somebody said they're still there, but some people say that, they've been stolen. So we've mentioned Lord Shiva's ever present in Vrindavan. He's Gopeshwar, he's Nandeshwar, he's Chakleshwar, he's Kameshwar, he's Asheshwar. And beyond that, our acharyas, they have written that wherever there's a body of water in Vrindavan, Shiva is there. Wherever there is a forest in Vrindavan, Shiva is there. Wherever there is, hills in Vrindavan, Shiva is there. Wherever there are pastures in Vrindavan, Shiva is there. And the reason that he eternally stays there is because he is the greatest Vaishnava, and he's always eager to see the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. He's burning with that eager desire. Please let me see the divine couple and how they love one another. So on a very auspicious day like Shivratri, we should not forget to pray to Lord Shiva for his mercy. Vaishnavanam yata shambhu. O Lord Shiva, O greatest. There was a beautiful verse, if I can find it. Hold on a second. Wait a second. My notes are kind of messy. Hold on one second, okay? Yeah, this is a prayer that's been written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and it's not the the entire prayer, but I'm sort of paraphrasing, so please bear with me. And it's a prayer that written by Srila Vishwanath in one of his literatures. And I think it's in Sankalpa Kalpadruma. And in conclusion, Srila Vishwanath he's offering prayers to different residents of Vrindavan that he can develop Braja Bhakti. And we should pray to Lord Shiva also, please allow me to develop Braja Bhakti. So it says, O Shiva, O gatekeeper of Vrindavan, O great mystic who is accompanied by Uma, O you who carry the moon in your hair, O you who were worshipped by the four Kumars, O you who were worshipped by the gopis of Vrindavan, please give your mercy to me. So we ardently should pray to Lord Shiva today. Please, Lord Shiva, give me your mercy. Please, Gopeshwar, give me your mercy so that you have the benediction that's been given that you can see the rasa dance. Please, you be kind, you share that with me so that one day I will see the rasa dance. And there's one more point I wanted to make, is that Lord Chaitanya's disciple, Murari Gupta, his associate from Navadvip, he wrote a book describing pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in that book, he wrote a prayer. There is a prayer to Lord Shiva that it's said to be written by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I've heard of this before. I've heard Lord Chaitanya's prayers, but generally we only hear that Lord Chaitanya wrote Sikshastakam. And Lord Chaitanya says, I offer my humble obeisances to you, O Sri Shiva, who are the guru of everyone of this universe. Please, I beg you to bestow bhakti in my heart and grant auspiciousness for everyone within this world. And Murari Gupta said that this prayer was offered by Lord Chaitanya when they were traveling in Orissa, and they came to one great temple of Lord Shiva, and Lord Chaitanya, he went in and he offered prayers to Lord Shiva. He said, I offer my humble obeisances to you, Sri Shiva. You are the guru of all the living beings of the universe. Please bestow Hari Bhakti in my heart, and please bestow Hari Bhakti to the hearts of everyone in the universe. And by doing this, create auspiciousness for the entire world. So that's a good prayer for us to pray to Lord Shiva today. Yes, and on that point, I think I will conclude. Pray to Lord Shiva. He is the greatest Vaishnava. He can bestow Vaishnavism upon us. He is an eternal resident of Vrindavan. If you have an aspiration to come to Vrindavan and to live in Vrindavan, by praying to Lord Shiva, he will fulfill that aspiration. If you desire to see the rasa dance of Sri Krishna, you pray to Lord Shiva he can bless you in that way. And he can bless you that your heart becomes full of Hari Bhakti and loving devotional service to the feet of Radha Shyam Sundar. Okay, thank you all very much. I hope that everybody is well. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, wish that you could all be here for Shivaratri. And it would be nice if you, today when I was doing puja, after I gave regular bath to everyone, then I had Shiv Charan prepare a mixture of milk and ghee and honey and rose water and different things like that. And then I gave a special abhishek to my Shivalingams with those objects. And probably after this, I'll go back down to Balaram Baba and I will sit and listen to the mantras being chanted. It was last night, I put a clip, I'm not sure if I put it on Facebook, but I put it on Instagram, a clip of the Brahmins chanting, very, very powerful sound vibration. Vrindavan now it's a tricky season because it's warm during the day and inside the homes are still cold. So it's that perfect atmosphere for catching a cold and getting sick. It's the hot and the cold constantly. This last Sunday, I was supposed to give class. Sunday morning, we had a program here at home. There was one young girl becoming a devotee for a couple of years now. Her name is Rupa. She's from Lucknow. And it was her birthday. She's, and so she wanted to have prasadam for the devotees and have kirtan. So we had nice kirtan here on Sunday morning. And then I was pinched in the afternoon for giving class because I was driving into Delhi because on Sunday night, I flew over to Qatar again for Shamaharshini's chemo session. I flew in the morning and flew out in the evening. And she didn't know I was coming. So we gave a little bit of a surprise. And her chemo went much smoother this time. And the next day, I was told by Shiv Rajabhumi that she felt better, that she was able to chant. She got up in the morning. She actually did a little yoga. Now, she wasn't so devastated as previously. And so I flew back Monday night, and then Tuesday, we had a wonderful program at Radharaman Temple. We had been invited by the Goswamis to bring a kirtan team and do kirtan they said from 5:30 till 8:30, but it was more like 6 till 9. And I organized a really wonderful team. Kinchana Prabhu was there, and the two brothers from Mauritius, Smita Krishna, and his brother, he used to be Sharad Bihari, but now he has a different name, and I forget what his name is. They sing so beautifully. When I hear those two brothers sing, it reminds me of Pandit Jasraj. And then we have, I took one nice devotee from Russia, Thakur Haridas, and he sings like an angel. And then we sang the Radha Kripa Kataksha Stotram in the way that we did at Dubai, Kirtan Rasa, and all the people, all the guests in Radharaman Temple, they just exploded in happiness. It was really, really wonderful. And the Goswamis there, they were so kind. And yeah, it was kind of, first part of the week was quite busy, and then having meetings with devotees over here and training devotees how to do puja. So I've been well, and I hope that you are all well, and we hope to see you again next week, okay?
Sure, Guru Maharaj. Many, many thanks. Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All stay well.
Thank you,
Mahashi-
Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Mahashivratri ki jai.
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 Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you.
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Also
Prabhu.
this Radha Krupa Kataksha, which Guru Maharaj sang during Kirtan Mela, that's also composed by Lord Shiva.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you
Supreme.
today also.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu,
Thank
Hare Krishna, you look wonderful in the Shiva outfit. Very well. Very nice. Well,
it was, it happened instantly. Just I went there, they said, oh, you have to become Shiva. I said, okay. Yeah.
Very nice. And they sang the same Radha Kripa Kataksha also. Same tune.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, how to stop
So
the live?
you can enter. Just